One of the hardest things we can face humanly is to see a loved one suffer and know there is nothing we can do to take away that pain. We receive regular prayer requests for fellow members facing all types of trials, and even though we might not be able to take away those trials, we know that God has not left us and that He allows these trials so that we would be perfected and complete, becoming like Him. A sad reality that I have witnessed too many times in my decades of being a part of the body of Christ is seeing someone walk away from God's calling because they think if they do, the trials will end. They have traded a long-term view and way of life for a short-term view of life. Unfortunately, this short-term view is part of mankind's carnality. We can live in the moment without a care for the future, often because the long view requires patience, sacrifice, and diligence. One example of this long-term versus short-term view is England and the United Kingdom at the beginning of World War II. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain believed Adolf Hitler could be reasoned with and that England could negotiate a peace treaty with Hitler. The problem was that Hitler had broken many other peace treaties and had shown no desire to stop in his aggression in establishing the Third Reich. After several years seeking appeasement with Hitler, Chamberlain was removed as Prime Minister and replaced by Winston Churchill. Churchill was one of the lone voices warning what Hitler would do to Europe and England given the chance. The interesting thing is that Churchill was not his party's first choice for Prime Minister. In fact, they saw him as weak and easily manipulated. But he was selected because his party knew the opposition in Parliament would accept him. Even the King of England thought Churchill was the worst possible choice and viewed him as a major failure ever since Gallipoli in World War I. Churchill was excited at the opportunity to lead England, but quickly realized others were maneuvering to orchestrate his failure. Then they would sue Hitler for terms of peace and accomplish what they had wanted all along. The turning point for Churchill was the evacuation of troops from Dunkirk. The largest private fleet ever amassed prevented the deaths or capture of around 300,000 British troops. Had they died, the war in Europe would have been won by Germany, and England would have become a vassal state at best under Germany. Churchill rallied the English people with his rousing speeches, showing them that surrendering would only create more problems and not prevent them from becoming slaves of Germany. He said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." The trials we face as a son or daughter of God are so we can achieve success in God, so that we can inherit His kingdom. Any failure we incur along the way need not be permanent or fatal. We can pick ourselves up with God's help, learn a lesson, be strengthened, and then move forward in Him. Courage is simply clarity in the midst of chaos to choose the right thing to do. Success is not final until we are made spirit, but we must have the courage to continue through our trials and remain faithful until Christ returns. We must have the courage to continue until we hear Him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I wish you a wonderful Sabbath.